Now, hold up. I think we should talk about this. Now, this is going to be coming from a person who, first of all, I first want to say that I do not believe that Charlie Kirk should have been unalived. Secondly, I am also the same person who was almost hit by a vehicle while two men were playing We Are Charlie Kirk. Erica says, Druski, this is sick. You fully dressed up as me, copied my look, my voice, my mannerisms, and turned me into a joke for millions of people. But let me guess, when it's done to me, it's suddenly comedy. If I did anything even remotely comparable, y'all would be trying to ruin my life. This is racist, humiliating, and you know exactly what you're doing. And Druski says, I never even said your name in the video. The fact that you saw a wig, a Bible, and a character and immediately decided it was about you is kind of telling on yourself. So Erica Francois Kirk then says this on X. My own little daughter came to me thinking she had seen me in that video. That's how far this has gone. A grown man turned me into a costume, spread it to millions of people, and now even my child is confused and hurt by it. Y'all keep calling it comedy, but there's nothing funny about bringing this kind of humiliation to my family. And I want to make this make sense because Erica Kirk, you support President Trump, who literally calls people Pocahontas. You support a man who got up on national television when he was trying to get his casinos passed through and said, they don't look like Indians to me. I mean, all because he was afraid of competition, which eventually closed down his casinos when the Native First Nations casino opened. And the man in that interview who was listening to Donald Trump's reasoning literally stated, well, it's a good thing that we don't go off of your look tests. Now, here's where form, comedy, agency, all kind of intersect. And of course, people are going to have mixed feelings about it. And it's okay that you feel something about it. I think that it would be more intelligent to ask yourself why you're feeling it. You see, here's another time when a person who may or may not be of agency, we'll just use her character's name, right? So Wednesday Addams, she dressed as a Native person and they were putting on a play. Personally, I feel as though in this instance, Wednesday Addams represented a better perspective than the conversation about Pocahontas and Disney. I want to know how hard, Erica, you have gone for Disney. How many times and that's just one place. Better yet, let's do actually a comparison about popularity and the bottom line, because that's really what it's getting to. So, but I want to say this. Wednesday Addams represented correctly in the sense that she says along the lines, your people will sit around and drink highballs. My people will suffer degradation. We will have to sell, jewelry on roadside stores while your people basically live in luxury. And for these reasons, I'm going to burn your village to the ground. But let's talk about some comparative figures. We can use money. We can use views. Now, in the comment, so let's go back to it. Erica mentions racism. You said a grown man turned you into a costume and then spread it to millions of people. That's actually not how social media works. If something is popular, it will go out there. Unfortunately, that's just what it's going to be. And we also see there's, people that are collecting these social media apps, and it does seem like the AI is redlining and violating the Section 5 of the FTC code by applying discriminative practices, whereas I see incredibly talented people being suppressed and people that are rather mediocre who can't handle things being said about them. And these are just words. It's not like your life is on the line. It's not like you're out making art in the world and somebody tries to drive into you with a truck because of the attitudes and the ideologies that are being injected into them that are just part of it. It still comes down to free will. But let's just do some logical comparisons. So the movie White Chicks It spread and it grossed $113 million. Domestically, $70 million. International, $42 million. And they had a budget of $32 million. So what is a comparable? Let me show you. That would be Miss Judy Garland. You know, since you said, if I did anything remotely like that, I think you should. Go ahead. No, in this era, 1941, when Judy Garland, these are some of the things that where blackface was performed by Judy Garland, okay? You know, The Wizard of Oz. So let's just go with Babes on Broadway, right? So this Judy Garland film made like $2.36 million. Now, in this era, 1941 was just the time that I used, and it said, I looked this up, that inflation data is basically that $1 in 1941 is roughly it's worth 22 times more now. So let's take these figures and we can compare that data. So the facts are facts is that even if we all know that if they were to play those movies now, they would not make any money because the way that blackface was done back then and the times, they don't match the culture now. But why should it matter to any of us? Well, because we are seeing the type of politics go on that where there are some ideologies that are being portrayed as negative. And then in the real world, we are having, well, serious, violent threats happening. I'm a personal person that's been affected. Now, I have started to watch and listen a little bit more to Charlie Kirk because I'm trying to figure out why those two men played his song and then tried to drive into me 3 different times. Why they came over and tried to destroy what I was doing, which I'm in a public area. I'm using my cane, punching the snow, and doing some physical activity, some of the movements that I was supposed to do through PT, specifically just to make some art, which is something that my therapist actually told me that I should be figuring out how to cope with being made fun of, being harassed, having my life almost threatened because of what people are saying. Okay? I am literally a person that is literally going through this. And I've went through it my entire life. And people will ask me also, Miss Erica, or for anybody that's listening. And by the way, Druski, the video is hysterical. You have my stamp of approval as this color person, okay? I think you should keep going. Do more. Do them all. Like, Saturday Night Live. All of the comedy skits are hilarious. Richard Pryor, hilarious. Cat Williams did it funny too. And Cat Williams, he said it right. People hate good shit. So, but back to why does it matter? Why does, cultural appropriation or misappropriation matter? Why is it important that I, as a person of who I am, with all the collective of cultures that are inside of me, as I literally walk in pluralism? And for whatever reason, the conservative, political ideology is that shouldn't exist. As a matter of fact, there was that Ogles guy that said, pluralism isn't real. It is real. I walk in it. I live in it. I was incredibly unhappy. Even a person in an HR setting told me, pay attention to the culture around you. When I thanked the veterans for Veterans Day, I thanked them for the things that I'm grateful for. First of all, almost everybody in my family fought for this country. My grandpa's got, oh my gosh, the cool photos that I have from what happened in Japan and Pearl Harbor. He was on boats that had that. As a matter of fact, somebody in my family actually went down and drowned in the Titanic. Yeah, he was a greaser. He was at the bottom. He knew that the boat was going to sink before everybody else did. Okay, this is a distant family member. I didn't know him, but still, this is my personal bloodline. My personal bloodline. Why does the negative politics, why does it affect me? Because here's an example. Point blank. Here's another example. If you don't want to understand the Pocahontas example, if you don't want to understand the Wednesday Addams example, here's another one. Sicilians were actually targeted. I am Siciliana. Salatamo come va. So it matters. Comedy's comedy, but real life, some of the politics, you guys are actually putting people's lives in jeopardy. Go hard for that.